Morning,
I
y'all.
don't see anybody.
We got any?
Alright. Don't know, they're out in the hall.
Greg, I think.
Okay, I think we're ready to go now.
Craig's out there checking.
Alright, we'll wait on him. We're almost ready. There's our public comment.
Okay, public comment here.
We got one public comment.
Okay.
Yeah. Ronald. Okay. Alright. Okay, we'll call our July 6th Board of Supervisors meeting to order this time. Mr. Slade, would you kindly pray for us?
I'll be glad to. Father, we stop now, we come before you now, as we always do, looking to you for guidance and looking to you, Father, for the wisdom that we need to conduct this county. Father, we take for granted, unfortunately, all of the freedoms that you have bestowed on our nation and on us as a people. Father, sometimes we forget to thank you because they come from you. Lord, as we think about this time of year, the celebrations that we have, Father, help us not to lose sight that you are the one who has given those freedoms that we enjoy. And Father, you have called many into service and sacrifice, and some have given the ultimate sacrifice. Father, as we remember their service, Father, may that encourage us as a people, Lord, to do whatever we can to honor their sacrifice. Father, I pray today that as we are honoring their sacrifice, we will use the freedoms that you've given us effectively, Father, in a way that pleases you. I pray, Father, for those who continue to protect us even today, our first responders especially, Lord, I pray for their provision and for their safety in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Craig. We have one person signed up for public comment, Mr. Ronald Fortune. You come on up, sir.
He's just outside.
I think they're on outside.
They go out and get him.
Hey, look at Jay's cup over there.
What district?
That's funny right there. That's funny
Yeah,
right there.
is this the guy that's on there? Make it private road public?
Where's he from?
I'll hide it.
They might be, I'm not sure.
You didn't.
I tried to call him,
That's a
but he
pretty
didn't
big
change. He
split.
answered my phone calls
Which
anymore.
one?
He cut me
These or
off.
maybe mine.
Bishop cut me off.
I ain't got no missed calls from you want to go.
All right, I'll play the
Good
message.
morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I'm Ronald Fortune. I live at 1022 Fortune Drive, which is off Trigger Bridge Road, just past the four-way intersection. I have what's considered a private driveway. It's been there over 43 years. When it was first opened, there was 2 residents there, me and my brother. Now there's 6 residents there. And part of the property is not in our name any longer. We were requesting some maintenance help from the county. You know, we're not asking for a big paved road or anything, just maybe some road grader work, ditch work, stuff like that. I don't know what the requirements are, if it needs to be can be changed to a public road or so forth, but that's why I'm here.
So we find this a lot of times, that's why we discourage people to do private drives, because ultimately how you start the property off, it doesn't end that way 30 years later, you know? But unfortunately, we have a lot in your situation and we just can't afford to go do every private drive.
Well, I'm not, like I say, I'm not asking for a big paved road. I talked to the engineer and he told me there were certain requirements I had to meet to get it up to standard for a public road. Well, I'm not asking for that. That would cost me $500,000. I'm just wanting a little help as far as maintenance of it, ditching and that sort of thing.
Well, like Mr. Bishop said, that you're one of many the same that come in or called and ask the same request. Many. I mean, I can't count how many. That's, and like you said, it's a problem when you own a private road, it is that until it can be brought up to a standard. Unfortunately, that's the way we have to do it. And we have some that are and have brought theirs up to a standard. And some that are still working on bringing it up, but they have the same situation. They just need some gravel, they need some grading, they need some ditching, and we go out and look at them, and the same situation. Is unfortunate. But
Well, my question is, there's different owners on the property now.
Right.
It's not all in my name anymore.
right,
Doesn't the fact that it's owned by other people come into consideration in this?
well, and this, like I said, I'm thinking about the most. It started out as a private road with two families, just kind of like yourself. They were two family members built a house on that property. Then later they sold that house to Bill and James, whatever. Then they sold some lots on down, and it's not in any of their names at all anymore either. It's all belongs now to other people. I think there's 6 on that one, 4 or 6 on that road. And they came and met with us one time before, same exact situation you're talking about. And but they are making an attempt to bring it up. I don't know where they are at this point, but the same thing, they realize how costly it would be. That's the reason, like Mr. Bishop said, we really discourage that because of what happens. And anybody calls and asks me about buying property, they're going to build a house that's on such and such private road, I go and share these things with them. And but sometimes people are fine with that. But like you said, usually 20, 30 years from now, everything's changed, and they really don't want it to be private anymore because they realize how much it's going to cost for them to maintain it. If nothing else, just gravel. And a lot of times there's a gentleman's agreement between everybody. We're going to take care of it. Well, the man that lives in the first house, he goes, well, I don't have a problem getting to my house. I'm not going to sink any money in it to help you get back into your house. So it becomes a little rift there too. But anyway, it's an unfortunate situation, but we have many in the county.
So there's really another consideration, a primary consideration, and that is the fact that it is private property. And as you guys know, as a private drive, it's classified as private property. We're not allowed to utilize any county resources to upgrade or improve what is private property. And so our system requires this. If it's a private drive and all of the individuals own the private drive who own property that usually it goes out to the center of the road, sometimes it crosses over, but most of the time there's no delineation of an easement. Sometimes there are, but at any rate, as long as everybody out there understands that it's going to be tendered to the county for potential public maintenance, then we require that the road be brought up to meet our minimum standards that's set out in our development ordinance. And until it gets to that point for you guys to consider whether or not to accept it for public maintenance, there's not anything that we can do. It's private property. We can't spend funds on it for the benefit of private individuals. It's just really that simple. Okay. So even if we understood that, we wanted to take it over for maintenance, it still has to meet the standard for us to take it.
Craig, this is not governed by Brian Bailey or
That's correct.
something. This is governed by the state.
Yes, sir.
State auditor.
Yes, sir.
The state
Law.
law.
Right. And even a notch above that, Steve, it's in the Constitution as well, because there's a jurisdictional statement about what this board can legally take responsibility for,
I mean, I
roads,
think
bridges, and
At one
ferries.
time, that was kind of loose.
It was.
And if you go back in history and see what happened about 35 years ago, there was a whole bunch of new people sitting up here at one time.
Some went to jail.
Oh,
Yep.
uh,
Yeah, that was in the
Right.
80s.
I'd love to come out there and fix half a dozen of them like yours.
Yeah.
I would, I mean,
Well, most of it is not a problem.
Right.
Just occasionally with the heavy rain, we
Yep.
get, it
Right.
develops into a
right,
problem.
and we have had them.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
I have one of my own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, it's an easy answer to give to say your hands are tied, but you guys know better than to risk questions from the state auditor and others as to why we are spending public resources on private property. That's a no-no, and we have to be really, really careful about that. And even the most well-deserving requests of those whose property is accessed by private easement, even in situations, we've had situations where houses are in jeopardy, sinkholes and drainage impacts and that type of thing. I mean, very compelling reasons where we've had to tell people, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. And so I don't believe that we're going to be in a position to help Mr. Fortune with his request until that road has been brought up to reach a standard that this board can accept as a public maintenance responsibility.
Sorry, Mr. Fortune. Thank you. I don't see anyone else listed for public comment today. This time we'll move on to old business. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Daniel. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Jared, second by Brad. Any discussion? I have one question, Laura. What is this G? Do you know what it is under grants? It's 0 to 3 grant. It says capacity building grant. Do you know what that's
Yeah,
about?
it's youth court, it's a, what do you need to know about
Are
it?
they planning on building something?
No.
Okay.
It's not for building.
All right.
It's
Okay.
for a program.
All right, good deal. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Mr. Sullivan. You've been a popular guy lately.
Yes, sir. It'll get worse. Automatic petition change assessment, 2019 real and personal property assessment.
Motion approved.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
I think B, C, and D can be handled together. It's just, the board of tax sales.
Motion approved.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, John. Mr. Harrison.
I make a motion to approve A, road work accomplished, road work scheduled.
All right. Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Got a request for approval of Bay Springs Telephone Company utility permit, construct fiber optic telemark along and across Walters Tower, David Henderson Road, Bradshaw, Garland Road, Warner, Charlie White, and Get Her Done Road.
Get her done.
Okay.
That'll be all that's through there.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Daniel. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Mr. Parker.
Good.
Ms. Janice will be proud. Mr. President, the first item we have on the agenda is Deer Crossing subdivision. We're recommending approval of the preliminary plat and final plat. It's a District 4 property. That's a subdivision on Stump Ridge Road near the Holly Bush Road end.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Is that what we've looked at
Yes, sir.
recently?
Yes, sir. That's what
We're good. We're gonna do the preliminary and the final.
Yes, sir. There's no construction drawings because it's all on Stump Ridge Road, and I think they've given Mr. Slay a copy of their covenant, so.
How many are they building?
That's 7 lots or 3-acre lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big lots. And the same cover.
The main thing
across the road.
the main thing that we'll do is we'll make them
High-end.
provide us with culvert sizes for the driveways out there. They'll have to provide the culverts, because that's part of the process when you don't,
Yeah.
when you're building on an existing county road, a
Right.
subdivision like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're all gonna front the road?
Yep,
Yes, sir.
All right. Have a motion?
motion.
Motion by
Second.
Steve, second by Jared. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Item B is River Forest subdivision Part 2. We're recommending approval of the final plat and a letter of credit in the amount of $128,258.43. District 5 property.
Oh,
Wow, that's unusual.
it is. I'm kind
That's
of
the
shocked
second,
over here.
that's the second of, I'm not sure if we're fortunately gonna have 3 or 4 phases, but this is the part 2 of that.
All right, I make most approved.
Second.
That doubles your subdivision
Second by
capacity.
Brad. Do what?
That doubles the amount of subdivisions you got.
Especially under construction.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
On the Mill Creek Bank Protection at Woodlands Green Place, that's the NRCS project, we're recommending approval of a summary change order for a decrease in the amount of $3,812.80 and request approval of the final payout, number 3, which is the final, in the amount of $22,187.20 to MIMS Inc. and authority to issue the check.
So moved.
Second
Good
by
job,
Daniel.
y'all. Good job y'all did on that.
Second by
Second.
Steve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
And I'll have an agenda add item to finalize that in just a second. Item D, Mr. President, is the Hanley Circle Street Improvements Project. We're recommending approval of a summary change order for an increase in the amount of $3,686.40 and approval of payout number 4, which is the final, to Thornton Construction Company in the amount of $23,507.27 and authority to issue the check.
So moved.
Motion by Daniel.
Second.
Second by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Mr. President, I have one item to add. It would be item E, a request authorization for the board president to execute the reimbursement documents on the NRCS Mill Creek project. That's, would be an amount of $50,698.23 that we would be reimbursed on
Why
that.
is there a reimbursement? Why did they not be able to do some of the work?
No, that's what they're paying the county. That's their portion of the project. NRCS,
Oh, I got you.
It's an
I'm with you.
NRCS
I'm sorry.
What was the reduction for earlier though?
That was just a decrease because from estimated quantities to final quantities to $3,000. That was just getting out, the project's over, so
Yeah.
that was just zeroing out all the
That's
quantities.
unusual. Project come in under.
Yes, sir.
That's how we run it up there. It's tight shit.
Wait, we just approved one that went over.
It was tight. It
They
was
almost,
tight.
those 2 projects almost washed.
Kind of what we did was on this Hanley deal, it was kind of, I didn't know we need to put bond stuff that goes over in the minutes, right? So this was a new thing. That's what shocked you, I think, because we took a bond project and it went over the amount that was designated. So we put it on the agenda. That's the confusing part of it. But we did it and it kind of went through that way. So,
All right.
but see,
So
we all
you
see.
want to make a motion on that last?
I'd like to.
To add it? All right.
Yeah.
Motion by Daniel, add it. Second by Brad. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right.
That's all I have, Mr.
You
President.
want to vote on it then? You want to vote on it?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Motion by Daniel to approve, second by Brad. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes
I
have
just
it.
want to put it on the agenda to see how it works.
yeah, I didn't know you
Mr.
put
Slade.
bond projects on the agenda, but we decided to do one different this time. So I think it went pretty good. So in the future, if we keep doing it that way, don't you see it?
We might have,
Novel idea, huh?
yeah.
Mr. President, item A under my section is to set a public hearing for the 15th of July at 9 a.m. for the David Campbell dimensional variance request on Trickham Bridge Road, District 4 property. That's just to set the hearing.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Daniel. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Mr. President, at this point, we've got, it looks like 3 public hearings. If I may, I'm going to request, I'm going to have to step out and make sure that the individuals that are here for their public hearings are able to come in before we open the public hearing.
Okay.
Craig, the first one is for the
Yeah, he's
text
just
amendments.
jumping ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I missed item B.
I thought you
flat
just
missed
going-
it.
Thought you
Yeah.
were just thinking ahead,
Thank
getting
you.
them all.
No. So item B is a public hearing on the text amendments to our zoning ordinance. And I don't have my cheat sheets here, so I'm going to let Renee sort of help walk me through.
Yeah, Renee, tell us what all changes we have.
I apologize, Renee, I didn't.
Well, that's okay. So the main one is we defined a rural subdivision in the agricultural zones in order, if they meet certain criteria, then we wouldn't have to do the rezoning or change the zoning of the properties. And they're allowed as a conditional use in the agricultural zones, so they will still come before you and you can, set certain conditions if you want on those, but it's, you can't have, it's 10 acres, and you can't have more than 10.
That's
Maximum
correct.
of
So
10.
they have to, each
No, no,
lot.
minimum 10.
Minimum of 10.
Each lot is a minimum
No
of
more.
10.
Yeah, more.
A maximum
Is that
of
right?
10
No, it's
total
10.
lots.
A maximum of 10
10
total lots.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if you've
Okay.
got
So
let's say
100
for
okay.
instance that you've got a 200-acre piece of property and somebody comes to Renee and says, I would like to develop a rural subdivision under your ordinance. I'm gonna have 12 lots of each of them with at least 10. Well, you stop them right there and say, you will not be able to do a rural subdivision. You will have to go through the rezoning process and develop it as normal. Why?
Why?
Because more than
More
10
than 10.
lots. He
Oh,
wanted
you
to
want
do 12.
lots. Never mind, okay.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm walking you through some examples here.
But
Somebody
they all
comes
have to
in
have
and
road
says,
frontage.
and this is where,
Yes.
that's correct, and this is where it gets a little tedious, and we're gonna have to really have you guys help us with this. Somebody comes in, they've got 97 acres. You can do the math and understand
That's
that
9
we're gonna
lots.
have a problem. They're gonna have to jettison one of those lots, because it will not be able to meet the 10-acre
No,
minimum
more.
sizing. This is where we're gonna really have to have you guys help us understand that we set parameters like this for a reason, and you're approving parameters that we're gonna have to work within. So we wanna be able to communicate to applicants, these parameters are set.
So he
There's-
can't develop a 7-acre lot.
He won't be able to do
Well,
anything,
he
he'll
can.
have to
He can
fold his
rezone.
acreage, he'll have to
He
fold
could
his
change it to
acreage.
say
Change
12 acres.
zoning.
He could go 12-acre lots or 11-acre
Well, I thought
lots.
you said
correct.
it's gonna be 10.
He can fold, no, it's a minimum of 10
So
acres.
he's got to expand.
He can be
to
larger
right.
than that.
Absorb the 7
Right,
acres
yeah.
throughout the other 9.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a couple of situations that we're gonna really have to have your help with to understand. The third example of a hard conversation is gonna be that acreage where they can meet the minimum lot size, they can meet the minimum number of lots, but they cannot meet the road frontage requirement. I want you guys to understand that we're going to face that, we're gonna face it early. They're gonna be
Is it 100
requests.
Is it 100 or 110?
Sir?
100 feet or 110?
Yeah, our footage, our footage requirement is 150.
150.
Yeah, our footage requirement is 150 feet of road frontage to qualify
For this particular one.
Again, every property owner out there is able to request and receive permission to develop their property. It's just that they may not be able to skip the rezoning requirement. That's all this is. This is a set of minimum requirements to be able to skip the rezoning. If they can't meet the minimum and they still want to go forward, you can allow that as long as they understand they're going to have to go through the rezoning process. Okay? You're not stopping the development.
Well,
You just,
I think it's a great idea. I think if these people, say 100-acre development, people are doing 10 acres and they all have 200 foot of frontage, and then someone comes in and says, you know, I like this piece right over here, and they were not gonna use it, maybe that was gonna be some community, and it's got 75 foot. Well, the other people will have an opportunity, because it's gotta be rezoned,
That
to
point.
say, hey, this is part of us, and it doesn't match the rest of us. We all fell under the guidelines, so we get an opportunity here to address that.
speak on that issue.
Tough to tell that guy he can't build a house because he doesn't have 75 feet.
We still
Well, I
have
mean, he
the-
can, he may have to find another lot.
No, I'm getting, well, I mean, with these people, they take a stand and say, no, we don't want you building here. That's gonna be a tough call.
We have it already. I mean,
Yeah.
even in subdivision where you
Right.
have to have minimum frontages, and
Yeah.
every subdivision I have, just about a developer's gonna have them coming at areas where,
Type of variance.
yeah, where they're squeezing them down, and,
So, but what's the maximum they can go with?
maximum.
I mean, because we got a minimum
Yeah.
of 10
It's not
acres.
one.
There's
So,
not one?
not
I
more
did
than
that right.
10
Okay.
lots,
All right, just
not
making
more
sure.
than 10
They can
lots.
go 100 acres.
And so here's the theory behind it. We're giving them an opportunity to avoid rezoning. Rezoning. That's it. And in order to avoid rezoning, you have to meet these standards, not more than 10 lots, all with road frontage, at least 10 acres big.
And they'll still be considered agriculture.
They're
Yes.
still ag. Okay, so Jared, your question, what's the minimum? If a guy wants to put 20 lots in, that's fine. He just has to rezone. He doesn't get to use this process. He has to rezone, and he has to go through the development ordinance requirements. All of the development ordinance requirements are in play. This is just to fit a very narrow set of circumstances that we see frequently,
Yeah, that's right.
where what the staff ends up doing is saying, this ought to work in this area, it really doesn't change the character of the area, but we don't have a way to provide you the opportunity to do this unless you rezone the property. So there are circumstances out there where it just really doesn't make sense to rezone it.
Okay, we still don't have anything where the guy could sell 40 acres and have to go half a mile back.
That's correct.
Unless
Well, I mean, unless his lot is a half mile deep.
Huh? Right.
Unless his lot's a half mile deep,
Yeah, well, that's the one that I really have heartburn with.
yes.
I
So,
I put myself in that situation if I was buying that, and I'd want to build me just a gravel road / driveway back to it.
so if it's gonna be a part of a subdivided activity, Jared, it's gonna need to be rezoned.
No, I mean, if it was just he's gonna build one house on
Mhm.
40 acres back there.
If it's his house and
Yeah,
his 40
that's-
acres.
That's
he
not a
can-
subdivision.
He's gonna sell it to you, and you wanna build
Oh.
buy that 40 acres back there.
Yep.
And you see what I'm saying?
Yep, and I do know the problems with that. When you got a quarter mile or half mile of a gravel road, it's probably gonna have one or two ditches that run through it. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but it'll wear on you, and on your financial and your physical
I agree.
self to maintain it. And then the next thing is you're standing right there,
Right here.
like this guy
But you know,
was
get
today.
that same answer.
Huh?
But we just have to give that
I
same
know, it's
answer.
the same.
I just have, I do have real heartburn with that. Out in a rural setting, and you can't do it. I don't know how to get around that.
So,
Just tell them we don't hold them to the road standards.
Huh?
It's easy, just tell them they can build whatever they want.
Well,
Whatever
that's the
type of
problem.
road, it's their
That's-
road.
That's, well, I agree, but that's not the way we got it set up now.
yeah, the hardest problem with that though, Jay, is when you have to face your volunteer firefighter who is called to go back to deal with a house fire, and there's no way that they're getting anything in terms of apparatus that deep in the woods
I understand.
safely.
But
It
that's
just can't be
that's
done.
the homeowner's
Right.
responsibility.
And I agree with you.
You got 2 or 3 generations in 15 years, 20, that man probably is not gonna be owning that property, or he won't be the only one
That's right.
on that property.
That's right.
And these
It
other people are
mushrooms.
gonna say, how in the hell did y'all let this happen? My mother died
Mhm.
because the ambulance couldn't get in here when the water was up.
Yeah.
Well, we got that, we have the exact situation
Yeah.
you just described, only they didn't die, but they couldn't cross a, bridge, the fire truck couldn't, house burnt to the ground. They
Yep.
tried to go around, couldn't.
Yep.
But since then,
Yes.
the guy has rebuilt the house and has put a big culvert in
Right.
there where they cross now. But I mean, same exact situation.
Yep.
And there's like I'd say, probably 4 families or more live on that same thing.
Yes.
And it was developed way back. The gravel road to get to most of them's fine. It's in great shape. They keep it up. But when you had to cross that bridge to get to his house, burnt to the ground.
Okay, do we have any other text changes that is?
The others were a lot of cleanup. The only other thing we did was we added a place for recreational type vehicles. They would go in a mobile home park. There is an allowance for where they'd go, but we defined all that. The other stuff is mainly just cleanup.
Wait, explain about the recreation. You talking about like motorhomes?
RV.
Yeah. And what were we doing? What changed there?
We added a definition for it, and then we said where they would be allowed, which would be in a mobile home park, a place designated for those type things.
This is gonna pick up our tiny house questions, because those are classified by law as recreational vehicles. So they're gonna fall under that definition in our zoning ordinance, and they'll have to be placed where recreational vehicles are authorized under our zoning ordinance. So we feel like that this is a good clarifier for us. It answers some questions that were left unanswered.
So does that qualify them to go to mobile home parks?
If that's where they're allowed there are some parks that do allow it, like Alpine.
Are they allowed there?
Okay.
They are.
Some of them are?
Mhm. They have been for years.
Because you hook them to the back of your vehicle, they're declared classified as recreation.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct.
Do I have a motion to approve the changes?
So moved.
Motion by Daniel,
Second.
second by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
To the extent that item B's public hearing was not closed, I'm closing it now.
Alright.
We'll move on to item C. I'll open the public hearing. Let me go see if there's anyone here on item C.
Which one we can talk about it forever. Or issues, driveways.
So that
private
one
property.
like you're talking, that's not my biggest thing. And I'm kinda like you, just let them build what they wanna build, and that's their responsibility, and hey,
Can't get a fire truck back there, you
That's
get.
their- there it is.
I think it's the way, we used to do it that way, It wasn't to the last.
Hey, catch three, y'all.
Only
We
thing
can
is
do it
keeping
right
them
now.
from selling more lots.
If that's what you wanna do.
CJ, that's the only thing. One day that guy decides he's
Yeah.
gonna build 3 more houses back there.
That's exactly what he's gonna do. Every one of them, as soon as they know they can divide it.
Okay, item C, Mr. President, is a public hearing on the Dylan Walker conditional use permit at Highway 25 and B. Summers Road in District 4. We'll open that public hearing. Mr. Walker is seeking a conditional use permit to develop a rural subdivision on the northeast corner of Highway 25 and B. Summers Road. The property is zoned A1, and he is proposing to subdivide a 52-acre parcel into 4 tracts. 3 lots will contain 10 acres each, and those will front on B. Summers Road. The 4th lot will front on Highway 25, and it will contain plus or minus 22 acres. The deed restrictions are included in the application, and the minimum heated and cooled square footage is set at 1,800 square feet. So that public hearing is open. I will ask if there is anyone to speak in opposition to the Dylan Walker conditional use permit request. I asked for anyone in opposition out in the hall, and there was no one present. Mr. Walker is here if you have any questions, but I assume that this would be the very first opportunity for you guys to actually approve a rural subdivision that you just provided for in your text amendments that you adopted in the preceding action, okay? Anyone have any questions on that? If there's no one here to speak in opposition on that matter, we will close that public hearing. This time it'll be appropriate to take action.
In light of new information that I've received, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead.
Oh, I thought you just wanted to table it. Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Steve to approve,
Second.
second by Brad. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, that public hearing is closed. Ms. Walker, you're free to go.
Good job, Dylan.
Item D is a public hearing on the Harvey Holly conditional use permit at 861 Andrew Chapel. This will be in District 4.
That's another one of mine. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have a shot at this.
I don't know where this is.
Oh.
That hearing is open. Harvey Holly is seeking a conditional use permit for a manufactured home that has been placed at 861 Andrew Chapel Road. This home is a 2020 32 by 80 model. It's a 1.02 acre parcel on family property. It's zoned RE1. Mr. Holly is moving back to Brandon to help with his father-in-law who has dementia. That public hearing is open. I called for this matter. I did not see anyone here to speak in opposition on this matter. Mr. Holly is present if you have any questions. At this time, we'll close that public hearing. It'd be appropriate to take action.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we go forward, set it, whatever. I do have a question. Do we know if, the health department, where they're at, they're okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Steve,
I approve it.
Motion approved.
Yeah.
Motion by Steve to approve,
Second.
second by Daniel. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Ayes have it.
We recently had a situation, Steve, where we had an outfit out of the Hattiesburg area, if my recollection serves correctly, that moved a unit in violation of our permit ordinance. Doesn't have anything to do with the rezoning action y'all just done or the conditional use action you've just done, but there's a separate ordinance that says that you don't move a unit in to Rankin County without a permit. But that was done in this case, obviously, since you're permitting it after the fact. What I would suggest, and what we did recently, was I wrote the offending mobile home seller
And the mover?
and the mover. I believe we had information on the mover. My recollection is a little fuzzy on that, but at any rate, we went to the seller for sure. And we communicated to them and provided them a copy of the ordinance. And my understanding is that they got in touch with Renee. I don't know what the follow-up on that was, but what we are doing is to seek a fine from the individual and or company that moved it in violation of the permit. We're pursuing that. I would suggest that we do that with this one. I believe, if I recall, it was Clayton Homes out of Hattiesburg. And they ought to know better. I think they have our
I think this may be
information.
the same one.
No, sir. I think it's gonna be two different ones, but they're from the same general area down there in that Laurel.
It's
Hattiesburg.
$1,000, right?
What is it, Renee?
It's not $1,000. We've just been doubling the permit fee.
Yeah, double the permit fee.
Oh, we need a lot more than that.
We do.
I say seek it.
Okay.
Seeking, how do we change the fine?
How can
We just need
change the
to, we
fine?
need to put our ordinance back in front of you guys and let y'all update and amend
We
it.
need to do that.
Yeah,
Because
It needs to be
this is
more than a
ridiculous.
double
Yeah.
the permit.
Yeah.
I think
All right, so what I want you to keep in mind is that the way we structured the ordinance is that the parties that are responsible under our ordinance are the owner of the unit, the seller of the unit, the mover of the unit, the installer of the unit. Some of those may be the same, but your owner is in there as a
Yeah.
party that is responsible. Keep that in mind. If you bump those,
But so
Fines.
as we go through that though, I'd kind of like to see some wording, and you may have to kind of craft it to basically say at the discretion of the one we find who was causing the problem. Like for example, if we find the homeowner just wasn't aware of it and was on bad faith from the trailer park
yes.
people to say, hey, look, you're good here, don't worry about it, and go. The homeowner, we can identify who was the culprit in bringing the trailer here. So, depending on what you find throughout our investigation of it, determines who we assess the fine to.
Yes. I think you guys will always have the discretion to assess your fines. One of the primary reasons that we keep the owner in the mix is so that we have good cooperation from everyone to rectify the issue. And my concern would be that if we present the suggestion that we're gonna let the owner off the hook all the time, we may not get as much cooperation as we need to make sure we get the truly responsible party to the table. So I think you're wise to think through who are the responsible persons. The folks that can protect themselves here are the sellers and the movers.
How much is our general permit? What's the general permit for moving in a mobile home?
$100.
Yeah, we definitely need to change that ordinance.
I agree.
Okay? So to the extent that I have not closed that public hearing, I think you acted on it. To the extent that we didn't close it, it's now closed. Item E, Mr. President, is the Gage Jones conditional use permit hearing. If you'll give me just a moment, we'll open that public hearing. Let me go.
I didn't realize that was one of the ones that had already moved in.
I didn't either. You probably told me, but I didn't remember.
Yeah, it
Well,
was.
it went over Thursday, but I don't know, I just drew a blank. The way we currently have it drafted, I think we still have the option right now of not seeking it from the homeowner.
Yeah, because we didn't on that one case. We went
That's
back to
right.
the
Yeah.
seller
Yeah,
and to try to figure that out. I just want to be sure if we're cleaning up the wording,
yep.
gives us the discretion, because it may be the homeowner
Yeah.
on time for time, so we can just see how that works out.
Not my district.
That should be all good.
Mr. President, item E is the public hearing on the Gage Jones conditional use permit at 328 Fannin Landing Circle is District 2. At this time, the public hearing is open. Mr. Jones is seeking a conditional use permit for an office and storage area for his landscaping business at 328 Fannin Landing Circle. It's a 100-acre parcel zoned RE1. There is an existing building on this property that was previously used as a landscape business. There will be equipment storage and materials on the outside of the building. The property will not be open to the public or for retail shopping. The gate will be closed throughout the day except for employees entering in the morning and returning at the end of the day. Mr. Jones's his plan is to clean the property up to make it look more aesthetically pleasing. That hearing is open. I'll ask first if there is anyone here to speak in opposition to the Gage Jones conditional use permit. Anyone to speak in opposition on that matter? Okay. Mr. President, I don't see anyone here to speak in opposition of the matter. In the event that you have any questions, Mr. Jones, he's present. Otherwise, we can close the public hearing and it'll be appropriate to take action.
Yeah, thanks. I've spoke to both of these gentlemen that's going to take over this location. They're top-notch guys in our community, in our area, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Daniel, second by Jared. Any other discussion? You already did the everything you want as far as.
They're good. They're going to keep most of their stuff in the back. They're going to clean the area up, get it all nice and clean visually. It's going to look good when they get done. So it's going to be a good setup.
Do they cut grass now, paint it?
Well, they need to.
Yeah, we're gonna need
They need to.
All right, no other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Y'all got it.
Mr. President, item F under my section is consideration of and potential action regarding the situation of the dam that runs across Buckingham Place. This is in Buckingham subdivision. This is in District 2. And so we will consider and potentially act on that situation. I will allow Ms. Cross and Mr. Parker and Ms. Harrison to help you guys understand what's going on with that.
Yeah, so I'll kind of get an intro here for Mike to talk about it. Basically what it is, you've got two lakes that are inside of Buckingham subdivision, and you have a drain pipe between the two that runs underneath the roadway. The pipes failed and collapsed. So what's fixing to happen is we're fixing to have our roadway sucked down into both of these lakes, which is a county roadside. So I'll let Tim and Mike talk more about it as far as if you have need specifics of it, but.
Yeah, I did.
All right.
That'd
So
be nice to hear.
come on in here and tell us about the details of hydraulics.
I'll let Tim talk about hydraulics. Basically what we've got is a pipe that's failed under this dam that's in our roadway. We'll have to get some pumps in there to pump the lake down to be able to get this replaced. We're gonna have to close the road down for a few days, and then we're gonna have to tie back onto the existing pipe that goes back in on the private property. We have designated that there is concrete pipe under the roadway, and then it turns to the black ADS on the other side of our right-of-way right there. But everything we're talking about doing right now, unless we find other problems, is within our right-of-way of the road.
So what happened?
I mean, is that it? Just got the sucking J in beside it. There's a joint done come loose right there, and it's sucking all the dirt in, and the road just shifting off.
So how do we go
So-
about repairing it?
One of the important things I think to point out is the lakes have a considerably different elevation change.
Trying to find where.
I'll call it the smaller lake, where the inlet is, where the pipe's failing. It's considerably higher, what, 15 feet higher? So that's where you're having your failure there. So you have a potential for a catastrophic failure. 'Cause
This is right
down
here by
on
Highway
the low side,
Highway
there's
18.
God bless you.
You
There's
gotta
houses on the low side around this lake too, not right where the pipe is, but there's one pretty close there. So a road failure there could be somewhat catastrophic for the surrounding area.
So what's happening now when it rains? Is it topping the road? What's going on?
No, it's just that are going into the spillway of it, Jay, is going running beside the pipe underneath the road, creating a void underneath the road.
So what are you gonna have to do, dig up the whole dam?
Just dig up that section right there.
How deep is it?
It's about 4 or 5 foot deep.
Oh, not that much.
So this
Who
is what
put
we
that
got,
pipe,
it's gonna be a
who put
slip
the pipe
deal.
in? Well, I mean,
It was put in the
It's part of the
development
subdivision.
subdivision, it was done 20 years ago, Gary. No, it's not a slip line job, I mean, you're gonna have to just take this out. We gotta get the dirt correct to hold the water, you know, on the dam. There's a lot of things you gotta take into play on this one.
it doesn't have a way to drain the dam,
Oh,
drain it down without pumps.
Okay.
That's all,
They don't.
unless you just cut it,
Yeah.
but, I mean, you got a house right
No,
there.
no, I'm saying, I didn't know whether they had a, you know, some of them have a valve they can drain.
Yeah, I don't think this
Yes, ma'am.
pond is,
There's no valve.
Do we have any kind of, estimate on what this is gonna cost us?
You know, it just depends on how extensive we have to get into. Jay, I've told Craig, I don't believe we're gonna go over the 70 on it. I think we're gonna be around the 50, 70,000.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be around the 50 mark, you know, 50 to 55, is where I'm hoping to end up with. But like I said, we won't really know until we get it dug up and see what we got.
What are you planning on doing? Are we gonna bid this out, or how are we going about it?
I don't know that we got, I'm gonna lean on Craig on that one, but,
Craig,
I don't think-
what you find on the Buckingham matter?
Yes, so on Buckingham, it's our road, and it is, based on our analysis of it, it's clear that there's an undermining situation there. I feel like there's a potential danger of some sort of
Road
potential collapse. They're gonna lose the road, is the whole issue
That's right.
of how we are,
Yeah.
in terms of viewing, the legality of our being active in that area and trying to get on top of it, that's what's driving that whole consideration.
So Jay's question was, how do you think we need to bid it out, or how do you want to take this on emergency declaration? What were you wanting to do on
How do
that?
we deal with fixing it?
Yeah, so there is, you do have the option, should you choose to accept it, on the basis of the testimony that you've heard even today, that it is in fact an emergency situation, to declare it emergency and to take action to correct it under the emergency declaration that you would make for that purpose. It's not COVID related, so we're not in a position to be able to glom on to the executive orders that are standing. This needs to be a separate action, and it is to preserve and protect the roadway under 19.5, 92.1. And we need to communicate to any private property owners out there that activity will be undertaken. I would like to see us, I don't know if this is, I was engaged here, so I don't know if.
No, they have two accesses.
Okay.
We believe that there is a place here for the HOA to be involved. I'm not suggesting how significantly to be involved, but there is a place for them to be involved here, especially as it relates to the downstream side of this thing, where you're gonna have some impact on a couple of private property owners. Some pipes gonna have to be replaced, there's gonna be some landscaping that's impacted, there's gonna be some sodding requirements. We see that as the place where the HOA needs to be involved, because it's basically, it's the front door of the subdivision.
I mean, a lot of subdivisions do this, their dams, their responsibility.
Well, they'll
But-
fix their dam. The problem is,
Our road
the road's
is
gonna be
impacted.
gone.
I got you.
This is the same consideration that you guys, not this board, but the prior board gave for Robin Hood Lake Dam number 5.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's the same dynamics.
Not really the same, since they don't have an HOA.
This is true. But unlike in this case, that was a high hazard dam and this is not.
Okay. How's this not though? If
Because
there's
there's
homes
not
below
both
it?
houses downstream impacted. And the
it's not but about an
likelihood-
acre and a half pond.
The likelihood that you are going to get a bad result of a dam failure here is probably.
Cause you
water in
got
a
two,
couple of houses.
two bodies of water.
I didn't
More
know.
like just be one
And
big
don't
body.
get water in two houses.
Yeah.
Is a controlled flood lake, a pond put there for,
it looks to me like it's just to make waterfront property. I don't think it's any type of flood control there.
so it's just for looks?
And the pond's not very deep, I mean, I think. we
So,
could probably
Mike,
walk.
what was your plans, Mike? on getting it
Well, I
fixed?
mean, we got a couple of different ways. We can either put my crews in there
Why can't we just sit
and
there?
go to work on it, or we can
Keep
go,
going with it.
I think we need to go the emergency way, Jay, because I think the bid process takes too long. I think we're gonna have to close the road down if we go in that direction on it, but I mean, we gotta order pipe, different things. It's gonna take some different pipes for this right here.
How big is the pond?
Acre and a half.
Acre and a half.
That lake.
There's two of them though.
There are two of them there. You got the upstream one and you got the downstream one there. Now, the downstream one
It's
probably,
big.
yeah, it's probably 20 plus acres.
Yeah,
How hard is it?
I personally, I would prefer that we take the emergency declaration approach, that we use that process, and that we not ask our crews to be in there.
Why is that?
I don't like the visual of it.
Really? It's a public
Because,
road?
because the work is going to be off-road right of way to take care of, and I really don't want our crews that far off a road right of way.
How is it
Craig.
off-road? I guess I'm not understanding. I
Maybe-
thought it was under the road that we're fixing.
It's gotta go off
It
the
is,
road.
but we're gonna have to
Dwayne
get, I
said
mean, we don't have the
he's
60 foot of right of way. You're gonna have to get off the right of way
So
to
that
fix
makes-
it. You see what I'm saying?
How long is it then? The culvert's 60 foot?
It goes, it starts in the water and it goes probably 150 foot across
To the other water.
to the other water. But we're hoping not to have to go that far. We just don't know until that's the unknown. We don't know yet until we get this thing dug up.
And you say it's not very deep,
It's about 4 foot.
but I mean,
Coming
the
across.
pond, the water itself,
On the
is it a
slopes.
deep body of water?
Huh?
The water itself, it sounds like it's kinda, it
Maybe
doesn't
it's-
really use until one fills up and it drains
Yeah,
to the
it
other.
might be
Right, well,
6
it's
foot
shallow.
water
It's-
depth,
it's
but the
probably a foot
road
and a
is
half
probably
down.
15, 20 feet above both lakes.
Yeah, so it's raised, that's the water comes,
It's
Yeah,
down
so the
about-
second lake really doesn't even come into play in this. It's just where this first lake happens to
Discharge.
drain
Drain
to.
to.
The second lake is, I mean, we just got a storm drain coming into it from the upper lake. They're not floating together. I mean, there's too much elevation difference. The small pond just drains under the road, and I think it's gonna come down a steep slope and then flatten out the pipe. We don't know that until we dig it up, though, how all that's laid. And then it just drains into the big pond. So the big pond is just,
We're hoping to
Is
come
the
across
pipe-
about 60 foot, put a catch basin in and tie into the old existing pipe. That's what we're shooting for, but we don't know until we get in there.
well, has the pipe collapsed or it's just undermined around it?
It's undermining around it somehow, Jared, because the water level's about 1.5 foot down from what it normally is right now. It's sucking in and going, you can hear water running underneath the pipe.
I guess the reason I asked that is it's something that could be, that same pipe, you just need to be reseeded. If it's, what's caused it to undermine around it, I guess what I'm getting at.
I don't know that,
Didn't have a big, the big steel, deflector that goes on it that keeps it from undermining, obviously not. You know what I'm talking about, how they'll put a big, I put them on before, it's a big piece of steel hole, and you
All
put
they
it on
did,
and
all they did,
it's
Jared, was
embedded.
come out with a piece of pipe and turn the piece of pipe up at a 90 is what they did, and the spillway
Oh,
goes
it's like,
over
yeah,
in the top of it, but somewhere it's got a
right.
it's got a joint loose, typical with concrete pipe and clay dirt that is gonna come loose, you know. And that's what we don't know what we're gonna get
Oh,
into,
it's
is
got-
what
so
kind of
it's-
dirt we're gonna get in this thing. when we-
It's got the kind that comes up, so it's really working more or less as a spillway once it gets to a certain level.
Right.
Then it enters into it, I got you,
And we're gonna go back the same way, we're not gonna try to reinvent the wheel there, but we're gonna have to dig this out, we're gonna have to bring barred material in, we may have to get this material limed and processed at a different site, and so we can get compaction on the dam, so we don't lose the dam in this construction.
so the
A lot
part
of
standing
moving
up,
parts in this.
the part standing up is concrete too? It must go all the way down to embedded into the, ground then.
They just turn one section up, and come out of another section and one across the road.
Nothing supports that out there.
So with it being an emergency repair, how do we go about selecting who's gonna do the work?
Whoever's
You
available.
have complete discretion, as a board to authorize Mike, to make the selection. Generally, Jay, that's on the basis of who's qualified and who can get to it first.
Well, based off our results in, River Chase, I suggest not using the same company that you used over there.
Which ones you use over there?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't
Well,
know
I mean,
the name of them.
I'll take recommendations from y'all, whoever you want, it don't matter to me. Just whoever can get to it, or we can do it ourselves. I'm just telling you, it's gonna tie up our crew for a while to do this, it's gonna
I
probably.
told you
need
my
to tie our
preference,
crew
is
together.
it doesn't have anything to do with capability at all. It's a visual, and it's,
Gotcha.
I'm making sure that you guys understand that there will be work that is hundreds of feet
Yeah.
outside of the right of way in a very visible.
Yeah, I know we
location.
gotta get fixed, I just hate giving
Send it to
somebody
you.
open checkbook, you know, there's no idea where this is gonna end, you know? So,
Right.
I've already had contractors look at it, I've got a roundabout price, I don't have an exact price, cause there's a lot of unknowns, but we know.
It's gotta be somebody that's got the manpower and equipment to go and get in there and get it out. It can't be a one-man show.
So you've already had a couple of guys look at it, so what was their prices?
Around that 50 to 55 mark.
Okay. Alright.
Yeah.
If we don't run into some unknowns.
Do you get the same contractor as River Chase to look at it?
I did, and I got, another contractor to look at it, I've gotten 3 to look at it so
Alright.
far.
Well, I mean, this sounds like a lot of the type of work that we were doing at River Chase.
How'd you see it?
You know,
Trying
It
to.
is a lot of type work.
Yeah.
Just turn it.
So do we need to make a motion to?
Janice
make
has
this
it bogged down.
Emergency?
Yes, sir. You've got potential action here, but the action needs to be your declaration of an emergency
All right.
pursuant to state law, and your authorization to have an emergency purchase order issue for the work to be completed.
If we contract this out, then it's gonna take the liability off of us, correct?
Yes, sir. So part of what I would like to do is to, as a part of this process, is to have a sit down, and I think Daniel needs to be heavily involved in the discussion with the
Which one's the
HOA
big one?
about
This is a big one, isn't it?
whatever
That's a
their
big one.
responsibility will be
Or really just must be
as it
bigger on
relates
this
to this
house.
project. We need to delineate, this is what the county's gonna do, and this is what you're gonna have
Just
to
old
do.
metal pipe that
We're
was.
gonna need to make that clear. Also, don't forget,
And it crushed it.
that we need to look
Well,
at
we don't
what
always
are
have some separate.
what are
I
the
can't
private
understand how it's under mine,
properties that are being impacted outside the right of way, and we have to have permission from
Wait.
them to
said it
enter
for
upon
you.
their
No.
property to do the work. So, at this point, I'm not in a position to tell y'all that it's anybody other than the HOA that's involved. But more than likely, it's gonna be a very small portion of 2 different private property owners whose property lines come right to that point where the discharge is into the big lake.
How close is the nearest house where you'd have to be digging?
There you go.
For this room,
This is Randy Journey's old house
I know.
where they cook the turkeys. That's where it's at,
Okay. That
right there.
was a small to the big.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, this is the big one.
Oh,
It
that's
just
the
opens
big
up. Yeah, this is the small one. He's on the picture. It just cuts off. But
that's what
So
I'm.
they'll
it's
give us a
bigger
bid
after that.
if.
That's where
ever-
Randy lived. That's his.
Because, I mean, we,
garage.
only would, they had
So
to
it's
give
right
us a
behind
bid.
that. Right
Well,
across.
Yes, sir.
So,
so if they get out there and say it's $150,000 job.
Yeah.
So what happens is, you'll get a quote, and if it's way bad out of the dollars,
It will be.
we'll have to circle back around and make sure you guys are okay with pursuing. It's
So
not-
it
you
almost
guys
sounds
say
to me
it's-
like a
it's not-
potential, knowing it's gonna be a big change order in here. We're gonna come in here at 50.
Yeah, we've.
And we know it's gonna be more than that, cause that's their line of work. So we're gonna get a big change order out of this one. That's what scares me about it, because they know how to read between the lines and see. And if it does that, then what are we gonna do?
I mean, you guys have the authority to address it as whether or not you want to approve a change order or not.
No, I'm talking about, that's what bothers me about doing it this way, cause most contractors are capable of having the equipment and the manpower to get in there and get this done quick. Probably are familiar enough to go, you know, we know it's more to this. So we'll shoot it right here. We're gonna pick another 50 up before we're done here.
And we can bid it out and shut the road down. You know, there's another way in and out of the subdivision, that'll put it one way. If that's what y'all wanna do.
That's a thought. If there's another way in and out, would it really handicap things that way?
The issue with,
It's gonna make them angry.
if you bid it out, there's still a lot of unknowns. And we can, I mean, the only way to try to figure out the knowns is to lower the big lake where you can get something in that pipe and TV, you're gonna have the camera, because we don't know what the, I can't find any old construction plans that show exactly how that pipe's laid. So to put together an accurate set of construction plans, it's gonna take some front end work. My thought to address what you're talking about the change order is, when we meet somebody out there to get quotes, we're gonna, and we'll document what we expect them to do.
Okay.
Now, if they uncover some 50-foot concrete box down there, nobody knows about that. But I mean, we're gonna say, you gotta get pipe laid from the pond at the upstream to a point down here where we can tie to this existing pipe. We're not sure exactly how deep it is, but we can point right there and say, you see the end of it there, and it's coming somewhere and going back up so I think we can talk through that and get them boxed in. I'm not gonna say there's not gonna be a change, because something that's actually physically uncovered, but the process by which they have to do it and what the end result is, I think we can make that clear when we get the quote.
Well, what was confusing me, I helped put some of these in that are steel, and when you talk about the concrete pipe runs through there and they got a turn up on it, that's true. But with concrete, with it hanging out there, what's supporting that part? How far is it hanging out there, or is it embedded in the ground too?
It's embedded in the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, so the shoreline,
Okay.
this is not a big spillway pipe that comes up 8 or 10 feet.
Okay.
I mean, the pond just comes up basically to a shallow right there. I mean, it just comes, the grade goes to nothing, and then you just got a little pipe out there. It's not and then of course you've got the shoulder of the road too,
Right.
to keep
I mean,
you.
they mow this with a lawnmower, so I mean,
Okay.
it's a way great.
And
It's
most
not
times-
it's not what you're thinking about a true
Right,
spillway
a lot of
pipe
times
where it's
that'll go all the
15
way
Right.
to the ground to support itself.
Yeah, so I think what it does, it goes right on the ground, then it
Okay.
turns and goes on
I
the
got you.
road, and goes, I'm guessing at a pretty steep angle, and then comes out to the flat, where they change the pipe size,
Right.
pipe type from concrete to plastic, and then it flattens out to go into the big pond.
And it obviously doesn't have, what they'll do is put a big, whatever they say, sometimes it's 10 foot by so many, welded on there, and it goes down in the ground. That prevents the undermining from around it. But I don't know how they do it on concrete. I just done it on steel. I don't know, the bidding sounds kind of good to me, but, well, let me ask you, you said something a minute ago, would it benefit us for everybody's purposes, whether you bid it or just look at it, if we go and pump that one side down?
Hey,
Well, you
man,
can get
you're
an eye.
making so much out of this. We're talking about 50,000, 50
Huh?
to 70,000. So,
We don't know that.
well, Craig's already said it's very emergency. Let's just get it going.
But I'm just listening to what he's saying, that you don't know some things. If you could pump it down, then you could actually tell what's in it.
But pumping it down,
You're
I
still not
mean,
gonna
pumping
tell,
it
you're
down is
still not
not
gonna have
gonna.
any idea what's under the road.
Well, I think he said
We
he
won't
wanted
know
to
until
camera
we
through
get
it
it
then.
dug up.
Then you
We'd
said
have
you
to
could run
pump
a
the big
camera
lake
through it
down.
then?
We'd have to
Through the
pump
pipe,
the big,
yeah.
we'd have to pump the big lake down, we don't wanna get into that.
Oh.
But
oh, you had pump,
I'm suspecting that the voids are not gonna necessarily show up in the camera, they may, I don't know. I think it's come around, outside the structure, and just running the outside of the pipe. I don't know that it may not be I don't know if it's a failure of the pipe, I don't know.
Right.
There's
Didn't
just
say
no
it.
way to know until you dig it up, that's
Right. I got you.
so regardless of how much TV cameraing and things we do, we still may
Yeah.
not know the answer to it, and that's part of the
The
issue.
problem is, the water's not coming out anywhere, Jared, it's just going straight down like this. We might have to dig up 10 foot, we don't really know right now.
So, but you are gonna still have to pump it down eventually, aren't you?
We'll have to pump the little lake down
Oh, the
before we
little
get ready,
lake.
when we get ready to fix it.
Okay, I got you.
Problem
Yeah,
is,
you
you're
said
gonna have
pump.
to
I didn't
have-
know. I
I
thought
mean,
you were gonna
whoever
have pump
contracts
both.
and does this is
Okay.
actually gonna have to hit ultimate weather. I mean, they can't go in there and pump. I mean, that's
Right.
where you get costly.
Not the good weather to be pumping right now.
But the road's closed now.
No, not yet.
It's not closed yet.
It's not closed yet. We'll
Obviously,
get to the
we'll have to
point.
shut it down when
The
we
dip
go to
there now?
work.
Is, school bus, delivery vehicles, garbage trucks, et cetera, that are crossing that dam. There's concern that you can't possibly predict or know when that failure is gonna occur, and we don't want that result.
Correct.
That's why this becomes an emergency situation. We're seeing evidence of an undermining action, and it's caused concern over the stability of the road. So that's the basis for the board's action.
So with that, I'm going to ask to declare an emergency, Mr. President. Make a
Okay.
motion to fix.
All right,
With the oversight of these three gentlemen here.
and you gonna get with the HOA and let them know what
We've
they're
already
responsible
spoke to
for?
them, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Have a motion to declare this an emergency
Second.
repair by Daniel, second by Brad. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it.
That's all I had under my section, Mr. President.
All right, Ms. Oster.
Thank you. The first item I have this morning is authority to pay David Morrow Jr. for the Family Master Services for the months of July 1, 2020 through December 31st of 2020, and authority to issue a check each month in the amount of $2,500.
Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Brad,
Second.
second by Jared. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed?
I got to abstain from the vote.
Okay, have one absent. All right, next item.
This is Rankin County Board of Supervisors authorizes Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi pursuant to our agreement that we have in place between the supervisors and Blue Cross to share protected health information with Rawlings and BLSW to facilitate a filing of a claim with Purdue Pharmaceuticals. Craig can address this for you and let you know exactly.
Yeah.
Right, so Purdue Farm, this is the opioid situation. That's the big picture, the opioid situation. Blue Cross Blue Shield is pursuing their own claim for recovery in the Purdue Pharma litigation. They, along with all of the other plaintiffs from across the country that are participating in this is multi-district litigation, are claiming that Purdue Pharma was aware that they were over-prescribing, they were over-providing opioids into specific areas. Blue Cross Blue Shield has made a claim. Part of their claim could include third-party claimants like Rankin County. So that, as a quick reminder, you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance third-party administrative self-insured plan. Blue Cross administers all of that. So they wrote and said, if you would like for Rankin County to be included as a part of the Blue Cross Blue Shield recovery, we can include that claim. Okay, so it's a potential recovery. There is no cost to Rankin County outside of what Blue Cross Blue Shield's deal is with their plaintiffs' attorneys. We would just simply participate in the Blue Cross Blue Shield. That attorney fee recovery is 20%, which is quite honestly that's a very reasonable contingent fee in the world of contingent fees. Most contingent fees are at least a third. So I found that to be a very reasonable attorney's fee. There will be a prorated participation in attorney expenses, but when you spread that out amongst all of the claimants, I don't expect that to be a big number at all. I have no clue what the potential recovery for Rankin County is. I don't know how many of the folks that are covered under Rankin County's health program were prescribed opioids over a given length of time. No idea. But at any rate, whatever that number is, Blue Cross Blue Shield has it, and they will provide it, and it will be a part of the recovery process should the board approve this agenda item. This is a bankruptcy proceeding. I'm going to point that out. Purdue Pharma filed for bankruptcy protection. So all of that got consumed into a bankruptcy litigation profile, and they have committed as a part of the bankruptcy process to provide, I want to say around $1.5 billion, I think it is, toward a settlement of these claims. So there won't be any litigation other than figuring out what each claimant in the claims profiles are entitled to. This is just a way for us to participate to the extent that we have any recovery.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Daniel to approve.
Second.
Second by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Next item is on our new Rankin County Courthouse facility, approval of pay application number 36 to Chris Albritton Construction in the amount of $384,058.40 and authority to issue that check.
Okay. That'll be my motion minus the back half of that on the agenda.
I did not read it on that.
I just noticed that.
Daniel to approve,
No additional days.
Second.
second by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next item is the re-roofing project for our EOC Center and its approval of pay application number 4 and final to M&S Roofing in the amount of $10,089 and authority to issue that check.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Daniel, second by Jared. Any discussion? All in favor? Any
This is the
discussion?
final, this is the final.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good deal.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Mr. President, I think there may be an item or two of additional business. I noticed at my last time to go out into the hall that there were some others hanging around. I
One
don't,
more item.
yeah, if it's all right, I'm gonna step out and just make sure that if anybody has additional business before the board
Okay.
that we somehow missed, I'm just gonna clear that out there so we
Alright.
don't leave somebody hanging.
The next item is an acknowledgement of amendment number 1 to the vendor agreement between the National Council of Juvenile and Family Courts and Rankin County Youth Court to change the compensation method to a flat quarterly rate estimated in the amount of $2,030.63 per quarter, and it will conclude on September of 2021.
So moved.
Motion by Daniel,
Second.
second by Jared. Any discussion? Yeah, what is this?
Yeah.
This is a grant, it's a performa grant that they already have, and what they do is they have to meet certain standards and measures and turn that in and get reimbursed based on that. But the amendment itself is changing that to where they're just gonna get an allocation for what they've done until the end of the grant.
So the.
An even amount, it's just an amendment that will even out the amount through the end of the grant, and the total amount left is $12,183.75.
But the youth court is the vendor.
Yes, right, it's a grant that we get, right.
Alright, okay. That vendor threw me off.
Yes, they are the vendor.
Gotcha.
They do the performa.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
I have one item under additional business. I need to add authority to advertise for our HVAC maintenance contract. When Ben came on, we extended it for 6 months, and it's time to go out for that contract.
Okay. Have a motion to add this item?
So moved.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Brad. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Alright.
That's to add.
Have a motion to approve going out to bid.
So moved.
Motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Alright.
There's no one else waiting.
I think Mr. Gaines wanted to add some additional business.
Yes, he penciled in.
Yeah, we talked some Thursday and then over the past few months about our road maintenance and different things that we do that's related to drainage or ditches and things like that. And I have a good many subdivisions, not as many probably as Daniel, from La Bourgeois, Dominion Lakes, North Van Estates, Melamede. They just keep going, and they're all getting bigger and more, and they expect more amenities. It seems like a lot of these people move out from maybe in a city type atmosphere where they've expected or had grass cut, alongside the roads. And I'm talking about not bush hog. I really wasn't aware. I knew we had a couple of lawnmowers, but at the last meeting I was asking about patching Baker Lane for short term, which Baker Lane is a long road. It's 3 or 4 miles, I guess, from stop signs, and it's got a good bit of traffic. And there's a lot of construction on the other end coming through there. So in lieu of spending a lot of money, and overlaying, and it hadn't had anything done to it in 10, 15 years. I said, let's just try to patch through it and get us through this winter. And I failed on the vote, but in the same conversation almost, I'm hearing, when are the lawnmowers coming back to a certain area? Not in my district. Mr. Harrison said, well, we try to cut it every 2 weeks. And I started thinking, you can take them damn lawnmowers and cut people's grass every 2 weeks, and then says, well, what about sweeping? I was told we don't sweep county roads. Well, what's the difference in Old Fannin and Baker Lane? What's the difference in one of these other roads in Chicken Bridge? Why can we say we're gonna cut the grass with lawnmowers every 2 weeks and sweep them because you live over here, but these people over here may get a bush hog through there 2 or 3 times a year. And then when the road falls apart, well, it's just not that important right now. Well, it's important to those people that live in my district. And I say, give the lawnmowers to the sheriff, his inmates run them. Let's all use the bush hogs, or let's all get the lawnmowers. But when my people can sit here and hear, right here, that certain areas are getting their frontages cut with a 0-turn mower every 2 weeks and swept, and when I've got La Bourgeois, a place in there 200 yards long where water runs across the road, and when it does, there's trash at pile. When I say trash, leaves, sticks, stems,
Cans, cups. Yep.
and I asked, can we get the sweeper? They asked me, Steve, can we please get somebody to come over here with a sweeper? I asked, well, we don't sweep county roads. So what I think we did is took the front end of a bucket and scooped it off, which is okay, but there's no reason. I can't tell. I mean, how can I convince somebody that, well, you're just not eligible to get the same services in Rankin County that somebody else gets? Answer me. Somebody.
Well, personally, I think we ought to just do bush hogs. I hate to get into the lawnmower deal. I'm just saying personally, the lawnmower, and I agree, and the lawnmower then's gonna grow, because you're gonna, wherever you do it, then it's gonna grow to more lawnmowers.
I mean, I've tried
we want it
to
groomed and everything.
I've tried to help, when y'all have had needs, I don't recall voting against one thing that was a needy project. We're all Rankin County. But that's not being reciprocated.
No, I'm just asking you about the mowing deal.
I know, I mean,
say that. I'm saying,
Well, I'm
personally,
pretty
I just
sure
assume.
that Old Fannin don't get cut every 2 weeks. Or
Well, one
else
thing,
I'm
rain,
just saying,
we
get
rain
the
more
emails
loud.
we do.
what did we
you
hear
know?
in here just Thursday?
That's what I told him, we need to get it cut, cause it hadn't been cut in
But
quite some
the
time.
rain will prohibit some of that, obviously.
But the way Old Fannin was built, we can't put bush hogs down it. There's not enough shoulder. That's why Mike bought the mowers
Okay.
a couple years ago that y'all all voted for.
I didn't realize they were gonna be stuck at 1 or 2 streets.
Well,
Yeah.
me either. I guess they can go use them wherever they want.
I want
It's
them
just,
on Holly
there's no
Bush.
way to maintain it without it, The
Well,
shoulder, there's not enough shoulder.
I mean, well, I guess, I don't think, where do you stop?
Well, I agree, but where you also don't stop is when you have potholes this big in the road and say we can't fix it, but we can go over here and cut the grass somewhere else.
I agree.
Well, we got subdivisions of the roads failing.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I agree.
Yeah, but you talking about apples and oranges. You two brought up want to spend $1.5 million out of the blue. That's a big difference wanting to get some grass cut and maintain the road. Now, come on.
I said cut it down to less than half just to get it patched, and you didn't stay with me.
Nah, and look, I have supported you in everything you wanted, man. So, and it's hard to me come over here and say, all right, Steve, I'll do yours, but Daniel, no, I can't help you, buddy.
Okay.
But look, we
Okay.
got a road plan.
Well, the big thing,
and if
I think,
if
we're
that
already
was priority, why didn't we do that this year? Why didn't we go ahead and take care of?
Because we were
of those?
topping out on we didn't want to go just keep building that bond and bond and bond.
I'm talking about the other roads you did, your regular maintenance. where are all these projects
This-
at? That's why I asked Mike, I wanna see a copy of our road plan.
One of the
you know?
problems is, Mike, explain to them again how many miles, because you've seen the road plans deeper than I've seen them, but how many miles, for example, say start in my district, go to Gaines and go to Brad's and Jared's and Jay's, and tell me how many miles that we've got that the plan came back and said needs to be overlaid or done. What's the mileage number on those things?
I don't know it just right off the top of my head, Daniel, but I mean, I know the dollar amount better than I do the miles, because that's what I looked at.
All right, well, ballpark some of the mileage for just
I
example.
mean, we're probably somewhere around 400 miles worth of overlay in the county. We have a 1,200 mile system.
All right.
You know, now
So-
what we worked on,
Tie the money back to each district just for a second on catching up just on the overlay side of it.
just in the first, well, what we did, we broke out the first 5 years of the plan when we started the civil link deal. All right, so it showed, and I'm just going off memory, so Mike quote me on it, showing 13 million in 3 districts, showing $1 million in 1, and about 500,000 in another. In the first 5 years, we got $5 million. I mean, you throw $1 million something dollars at 13 million, you just pick and choose what roads you want to do.
We're never gonna be able to do that amount, we know that,
Right.
dollar
We
wise.
tried to pick the worst-
so
we tried
as
to
we
pick the
start
worst
finding-
roads-
that's
we tried
right.
to pick the worst roads on the plan
Right.
of how they was graded, but there were so many of them, I mean, you just picked whatever you wanted to.
Because they're all failing to us at a rapid rate. So the point, the reason I brought that up, trying to get the extra money for the areas that are running off of Hugh Ward Boulevard and that Farmington Station is because that's fixing to get to a point where it's almost rough to drive the vehicles down, and rough being driving them down with large potholes, breaking up, total failure of those roadways. So, and that's fine, you guys didn't want to do that, but these people out there and the people I'm representing here to be speaking for are asking for help to get these roads fixed. And that's my job to sit here and come to you and tell you. There's $13 million worth of overlay just at the reservoir on roads failing. So we're trying to identify the worst to the best and try to go through and prioritize it. Gaines has got 13 million. Brad's got 13 million. You're fortunate to only have $1 million. You're fortunate to have less than $1 million. Y'all are blessed in y'all's areas. And you got a lot of money
Civil
pumping
Link
around.
showed that, I got more than $1 million, I can assure you.
Well, but you get.
No, wait a minute, if we're gonna go,
I'm
right, if we're
with
gonna
you.
go Civil Link, let's look at this.
Uh-huh.
We've not done, because it's gonna save us time-wise and money, where Civil Link said, do this type of application, we put asphalt. So if you squeeze that back, asphalt might have gone a little bit further. That was my discussion one time before.
My issue is there's a lot of problems throughout the whole county. I totally get that.
We got a lot of problems in the county.
There's no
And,
question.
We made a huge impact on it this year.
We have.
You know, we've had so
I guess
much rain that changed roads. I mean, it changed where we were at. Over the last year and a half, we've just been inundated with water standing on roads and making potholes and getting bigger. I mean, that's nobody's, I'm not saying it's your
Right.
fault or Daniel's or Jared's, it is what it is.
When we put this plan together 3 years ago, Steve, and it has been 3 years since we put this plan together, roads have changed, you know, and we knew they were gonna change. But just to get what we had done in the first 5 years, I mean, we need to have been throwing $8 to $9 million at the plan. That's chip seal, overlay, micro, all that kind of prescription in there, just to stay intact with our plan to try to attack 1,200 miles.
Well, we need to throw that plan out the window then, cause we don't have any kind of resources, aren't gonna have any kind of resources. Even if we did all that at one time, you gotta maintain it after that. And those only last, at best, 7 years. This road you talking about was just reconstructed 10 years ago. Gone in, totally, everything dug out, obviously got yazoo clay problems. But we got the same thing with these others.
Well,
South Pearson
in
Road.
fact, I don't know if it's
falling
quite
apart,
10.
Henderson
Well-
Road, it needs work. Old Fannin Road,
Right.
the most highly traveled road we got. We need something done to it too. So, I mean, there's no end to it. But we just need to address, I think, the best way we can.
The thing on the money issue was not the really, to me, was, we're already $2.5 million more out of budget. Pull that out, it's gonna put a bunch of, like $4 million out from where we were, 2.5 is where we were 2 years ago to now, we're down. So that would have pulled us on down another to below 4 million out of it. That was the big thing there. It's not the fixing the road, it's where we are with our money out of the general budget. Plus, then you got another things that just come up, things like today, and another lawsuit. Every time we turn around, maybe you tell some of the people, they could get some of them up there, quit suing us, we could spend some of that money, you know, but I mean,
We
they,
would've done, to answer your question, Jay, we would've done Baker Lane when we started this process, we'd been in bad shape at that point. It just got that way, you know, in the last few months. We was, I mean, we're basically done with the civil link bond deal, you know. I mean, we're finishing the touches on that right now, and we'll be through with that.
So then you're looking at $2 million a year, $2 to $3 million a year, what you're gonna have going forward.
So my point is, everybody on this board needs to understand that the current roads that you're getting worked on now is coming to a stop. Because we're at $2 million on, and it's not gonna matter, you got a lot of the city stuff covering you. But for the other four of us, needs to understand that all these projects getting going on and done and taking care of this overlay here, and that's all over. Because there's no money. There's no money. So. That's all I want to say. I just want it to be, I want it to be the same for all 4 areas, 5 areas.
but I will say, in areas that we, just talking about roads and everything, areas that we are gonna try to use, chip seal, whatever, they've got to be milled smooth. We can't just chip seal over what's there. And that's the situation in your district where a lot of it done, they were milled down. And
I ain't had nothing built in mind that we did
Well,
micro on.
But I'm just saying, not to say micro, no, it's not micro, chip seal.
Well, they chip seal it, then they micro on top of the
No,
chip
it's
seal.
slurry over it. It's slurry goes over, micro goes right over isn't that
I
right?
guess
It just
depends
goes
on
over
which
your
road
asphalt.
Mike decides to do what on.
Huh?
But in my
Yeah, whatever.
district, we did.
But you need to get the
stuff
high
like
spots
that.
out of it.
You gotta understand, once we get over 200 tons a mile on smoothing up and dressing up, you're starting to run into costs of doing an overlay at that point on the road. So you got to look at what you're gonna spend on the road. You gonna save the road, you know, I mean, we can dress it up, smooth it up. I mean, they're gonna still have a little wave and like most of our county roads right, but we saved the whole road, you know. There's a lot of different things you gotta look at, especially when you're decreasing in a budget like this. How you gonna save that road?
Well, we bought the milling machine to save some of that, so if we can mill out, you got places been patched, and you got the humps, those need to be, and you are in a lot of places, but those need to be smoothed out. I mean, you can't expect to tell the people, you can't hardly sell that to the people when you go in there and you put that chip seal and it's a thin or micro and it's real thin, and they still got the same bumps and dips they've been jumping over. And I'm not talking about just a little dip, I'm talking about a rough bump. It's hard to tell them, well, the reason we did that is we don't have the money to fix it. They understand, but then they also go, my gosh, look what all Rankin County's got. And then they kind of compare things. They don't realize that we don't get all this revenue out of dogwood or whatever. They see that, and it's hard to sell them on that. No, we don't get money from that. And they look at how Rankin County's grown, and they're going, but where are you putting the money then? They don't understand the budget part. They really don't, and I understand that. That's the reason they put us here. But you try to sell that to them. Well, why are we getting that? Why, you know, it's hard to sell that. I mean, it looks like you're just being a politician that's telling a lie.
They don't want the rock and tar on the roads, and it's got a reason to be put there, Jerry, to seal the road.
I know that, but that goes back.
It's just like painting your house. If you don't sand it down and properly do it, I mean, yeah, you're right, but at a certain point, it is like painting your house. You got to look at it, you got to say, okay, do I got to totally redo these cornices now, or can we paint them before they rot, you know, or do we let them go ahead and rot?
I understand it, but selling them on that is different, and they go back to the day when it was pea gravel and tar, and that's what they keep going back to. And I understand we gotta do that, and I explained to them what it costs here and what it costs here, and we're trying to get them the best road we can with the money you got to work with. And, you know, some places it goes over okay, but you gotta look at roads, obviously, where the way they're traveled too. If it's a connector somewhat, whether it be in the rural area, up in the middle of wherever, it's still
But I mean,
basically a connector.
what is the number? I mean, is it 300 cars a day on this road versus 16?
There's no way, if you go by numbers of cars, there's no way any road in the rural area is gonna fall in that category. No way. There's no way I'll ever have a road count that will compare to Old Fannin or some up there. I mean, so you really can't say that. If it is, then you won't ever, it'll never happen. So,
Well,
I
those
don't know what
people-
the answer is.
whether it's Old Fannin or whatever, half of those people don't live up there. They live where you live and I live. And they're going up there. I mean, you don't, if that was the case, a district would be very, very small. People from all over the county, you know, travel up there and ride on those roads.
And then so they come back.
Then they
how
come
we
back
can't have a
home
road like
and
that?
say, my road don't look like that.
I know, they come back and say, how come we can't have a road like that? You hear it, I hear it, I know.
Well, I mean, I'm, you know, overlaying curb and gutter subdivision. I've got this down pretty well to a science. It's gonna cost you $35 a foot to overlay, mill and overlay on curb and gutter subdivision. On a county road, it's gonna cost you around $22 to $24 a foot on it. Chip seal's gonna cost you about $6.50. Micro's gonna cost you about $8 a foot. So there's a lot of different things right there. It's a big cost difference of how you spread your dollars out to cover more ground in the county.
I agree.
Well, in Daniel's subdivision, he's talking about that the asphalt's breaking up, it just didn't get resealed, or it just,
Just hadn't had any
Yeah,
attention
they're-
in 15 years. Can't seal it no more. And then by the time we get here next year, you're gonna be in a deeper spot at that, cause it's breaking through in bad spots, but we'll just have to. Well, what we're gonna have is, in the next month, their HOAs are gonna be in here, and they'll be in here talking to us about it, and then we'll be able to articulate it to them at that point, so. That's where we're gonna be here in about a month.
I just try to manage the money the best we can.
All
spread
right.
it as much as
I
we
get
can.
you.
I'm not saying
Hey,
you're not.
you're doing a good job
I'm
with
not
it.
saying you're not at all.
So, you gotta have the money
I
to do
get
it.
looking at the list and I see 1,200 miles and then we've ended up doing about 50 miles a year. I mean, I can do the math and tell you we're gonna take a lot of years to get something done.
Thing about it though, this is not anything new. We've been dealing with this ever since, I know I've been elected.
But I mean,
It's never
we're
enough
taking-
money to
we're
go
taking on
around.
roads every day, Jared. I mean, I know.
Not in
since-
my district.
I know since-
We haven't taken on a new road in
well,
my
on the
district.
subdivision-
No, no,
on the
no.
subdivision, when
I agree
take
with you
over
there.
the subdivision, At some point in time, that road's got to have some kind of treatment or something done on it. It's not gonna last forever.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm just saying, we've been dealing with this. This has been the same problem we've always had, and will always have.
8 years out of a good overlay now, you know, because of ground.
And if we get a micro on it at some point, you get a few more years.
That's right.
And I
We've
think
got
that's
some micros
good.
running about 5 years on some roads right now. It seems to be holding up good. You know, we've got some chip seals that's holding up. You know, the first idea is to get some chip seals out there, get some roads sealed up, follow back in 2 to 3 years with a micro over 'em. But like I said, we're not gonna get the roads perfectly to where they ride like a,
They ain't gonna be close unless we do an overlay,
that's right.
you know, so,
I mean,
but it is
But I mean,
gonna take
speed
care of what we
is a
need.
big thing on the roads. I mean,
Yeah.
I will talk about that. I mean, I was going down the road the other day. I mean, I was going 45 on a county road. I had somebody pass me and went slam out of sight,
No, I know.
you know? And I ain't talking about pass me in a flat. I'm talking about pass me in a curve like there wasn't another car coming down the road.
Shoot, you do 45, you'll get run over on Old Fannin.
Yeah.
I feel bad about that, Mike.
But, you know, I mean, everybody talks about speeds and I mean, you try to go the speed limit and stuff and I mean, you'll get run over on these roads.
Well, Mike,
Yes, sir.
let me
if
say
you're not gonna
something.
get rid of the lawnmowers about once every month or two,
How's up to y'all?
could we borrow them and just run them on Holly Bush for a minute? Cause you know you can't run a bush hog on it.
Yeah, after that last development we just did,
Yep. Now, I didn't do the engineering on it,
I didn't either,
but
I know what you're saying.
you cannot, I mean, you can't cut it with a bush.
Yeah.
And that's cause.
I mean, then we're only talking about a mile probably.
We engineered that, I'll speak with the engineer on that, cause I asked the same question. We engineered it with the right of way we had instead of buying more right of way, we just dealt with the right of way
Right,
we
we're
had.
trying to do it as cheap as we
Saves some
could.
money, that's
Yep.
right.
Well, can we
Mike,
can,
hey, just for the record, how often do you cut Old Fanny Road?
We try to cut it every 3 to 4 weeks, within a month, we cut it once a month.
Yeah, that ain't nowhere close to 2 weeks.
Well, we had just cut it 2
If
weeks
we
ago.
do it once a month, that's great, you know?
If you
But I
listen
mean,
to
we-
the
we
record
just
from
cut it
last
2
time,
weeks ago,
it was
is what I'm
every 2
saying.
weeks.
Yeah, well, that ain't.
I don't know.
I wish that was the case.
I mean, most of the people keep their stuff mowed, there's a few homeowner associations that don't keep their stuff mowed up there, and it does get to looking a little ragged around their entrances.
Well, most of that road doesn't have a homeowner association on it, you know, so, I mean, there's lots. And unfortunately, the way it was designed, you know, heck, we gotta do a lot of weed eating too,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, it takes about 2 days to weed eat that thing.
Roundup
I
will kill a
think-
lot of that.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Steve. What you got is people wanting, enjoy living in the city, and they move out, and they want the same municipality services, but they want the county to provide it, but they don't want to pay any extra like they did when they were in the city.
I agree.
So, I mean, that's what you
That-
got.
However, when they can go and see another county road, it's a Rankin County road, just like their road, it is getting some of those
Well, I
amenities.
said, I don't think we ought to be mowing any of them. Ought to be bush hogging them all. But that's,
Well, maybe when we're in district, you can have Old Fanny Road then, and I wanna hear you tell them that.
well, I tell them we don't do concrete all the time. They wanna know why we can't put the driveway back. I said, we don't do concrete.
All right, I have one other item I'd like to bring up, or maybe a couple. Do we have any concrete around the county that we have access to? Old concrete, do we have any stockpiles somewhere around?
Old 49 got plenty, I mean, new 49 in Richmond.
They crushing it up fast as they can get it.
Miles of
Do they have somewhere, or they have a place for it to go, or?
Oh, yeah, they putting it back down the road. They crushing it right there on the
They're
They're
side.
also
using it.
selling it to the public too, $8 a ton.
No, we have a organization, Northwest Soccer Deal
Yeah,
Association. They're needing some riprap. They've asked us about that big ditch they have that's washing out all their ball fields. I was just curious if we had any concrete anywhere that we could drop off over and they could do the crushing. But just keep it in your back of your mind. If we have a project where there are some, they definitely could use it.
so many times now is there people that get it and they can haul it to like Ad Camp or wherever, different places to put it. And then they wind up getting so much they'll grind it up. And so it's hard to get just that extra. But it, yeah. I mean, most of them are tearing it up and they're crushing it. You know, he said that. I'm not sure what they did with, they just tore the school down. I think it's too late now. But they tore all that concrete up there at the Florence School. They tore it up. I don't know what to do with it. But something like that. Yeah.
All right, anybody else have any additional business? I know we have a couple people coming in for interviews.
Hey, do we have executive session today?
Yes, we do have a need for an executive session.
Besides that?
Imagine that.
Okay, all right. I have a motion to discuss the need going to executive session.
Yep, so moved.
Motion by Daniel,
Second.
second by Brad.
Slay, this is gonna be litigation, right?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes.
Except my life, and actually, it'll take $49 to pay. And then I come see.
Have y'all been contacted about doing the